Hello, I'm Annette Young and welcome to the 51%, a show about women reshaping our world. Coming up, outrage over UK judge's decision to spare 3 teenage boys convicted of raping 2 girls from prison. The Attorney-General now referring the judgment to the Court of Appeal. Also, studies reveal that nearly 2/3 of women aged over 50 are struggling with their mental health and not getting the professional help they so badly need. I'll be talking shortly to Professor Pooja Saini, a British mental health specialist, as to why this is happening. And we meet Lhakpa Sherpa from Nepal, who's broken the women's record for scaling the world's highest peak, making it her 11th trip to the summit of Mount Everest in 26 years. But first to the UK, where a judge's decision not to impose custodial sentences on 3 teenage boys convicted over the rape of 2 girls has triggered nationwide outrage. 2 boys, then aged 14, were convicted of rape, while a third, then 13, was found guilty of rape by aiding and abetting the attack. British Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has described the case as appalling, while the Attorney-General has referred the ruling to the Court of Appeal. Cami Knight has more.
When 3 teenagers convicted of rape were allowed to walk free, it sparked a nationwide outcry. Speaking to the BBC, one of the victims says she now fears for her safety all over again.
I was scared, to be honest, because I thought, now that they'd escape, if I was to wander down the street, they'd come and try and talk to me because they think they get away with it because they've already gotten away with one thing. Why can't they get away with more?
Beyond the UK, French rape survivor Giselle Pellico says she was deeply shocked that these individuals were able to gain their freedom again when the victims are suffering so much that they'll never be able to truly heal. The sentences are now being reviewed by the Court of Appeal after numerous complaints, with even the Prime Minister weighing in on the case.
The courage, frankly, of the girls to come forward is humbling, but it is distressing. I find it distressing as a politician. I find it distressing as a father.
The first victim, then aged 15, was lured to an underpass by one of the boys, where 2 of them raped her. A video of her 90-minute ordeal was shared on social media. The other girl, aged 14 at the time, was forced into a remote field where she was raped by 2 of the boys, while the third encouraged them, also filming the attack. CCTV captured the boys' phone torches. Despite being convicted of 10 counts of rape between them, the 3 boys, now aged 15 and 14, were handed youth rehabilitation orders. All were spared prison time. At the sentencing, the judge said he wanted to avoid criminalising these children unnecessarily.
You can't help but think that this particular judge had more sympathy or empathy or himpathy, as they sometimes say, for these boys than he really gave consideration to the impact of the crimes. It also sends a message, perhaps, that these sorts of crimes, the lives of the girls, are not taken as seriously as the lives of these boys.
The Court of Appeal will now decide whether the sentences were unduly lenient and whether to increase them.
Now, a recent survey by the British Association for Counselling and Psychotherapy has revealed that nearly 2/3 of women aged over 50 are struggling with their mental health. The study identifying anxiety, sleep problems, bereavement and, no surprise here, menopause among the key contributing factors. And yet, just as importantly, 9 out of 10 of the 2,000 women surveyed did not seek any assistance. Joining me now is Professor Pooja Saini, a specialist in suicide and self-harm prevention at Liverpool John Moores University in the UK. Thank you so much for your time, Professor. You've done your own research on women in perimenopause and menopause. Can you just take us through some of what were your key findings?
Yeah, some of the key findings that we had is that 1 in 6 women were coming in with suicide risk out of just under 1,000 women that had used a private menopause service. And out of those women, those who were having HRT, kind of hormone replacement therapy, we saw improvements in women's mental health, in their depression, anxiety, scores, and especially for those women who were on a combination of 3 hormones together. So that's estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. But we saw the biggest improvements in those women who had testosterone within the combination of hormones that they were taking.
So it seems there's consistently a failure by the medical profession to connect the dots, Pooja, between mental health issues and hormones.
Yes, this seems to be a really under-researched area. And even through the work that we've done, you know, we heard from many women who spoke about going to see health professionals. And even when they were saying that their hormones may be affecting their mental health, they weren't getting the treatment they required. And a lot of the time it was just focusing on mental health and kind of depression and anxiety symptoms, and not even really speaking about menopause.
Is it the case of a lack of education on the part of doctors? Is it also medical misogyny that kicks in as well? I mean, why is this happening?
Well, we know that a lot of research that's been done to date has not been done in female populations. And then when you look at global research, it's really only being done in high-income countries as well. So some of the countries where you've got least impact on women's mental health. We also know that we've not looked at some of the female-specific issues, whether that might be trauma or gender violence. So I think there is some misogyny at play, but also it's just the fact that female research has not been a priority.
Yet how much of this mental health crisis is also driven by the stress of modern day life?
Well, we talk about this kind of, you know, sandwich generation where we've got women who are caring for potentially elderly parents, teenage children, also working in jobs that, you know, may require a lot of time commitment. You're trying to also get yourself into leadership positions. So, you know, a lot of stresses might be going on in their lives at that time. But unfortunately, I think a lot of these issues are then looked at as stress rather than, you know, you also may be going through some hormonal shifts that may also be causing some of the kind of physiological stress, that like hot sweats. You know, we hear about hot flushes, we hear about women talking about joint pains, but they're not necessarily associated with hormone changes.
So how do you get the medical profession to make that sort of emphasis on understanding that it's not just modern day stresses, but also hormonal issues, which are a key contributing factor?
Well, you mentioned before about training, and I think within kind of medical training, if you speak to people who've gone through training to be medical doctors or nurses, they will tell you that it's very limited what they're taught about menopause. And so I think we need more education on menopause, and with that on mental health issues such as the potential increased suicide risk as well that some women may face at that time in their life. If we look at rates in suicide as well in this country, in England, then we'll see that there's always higher rates in women who are aged between 45 and 55. So I think we need more education on kind of menopause and suicide prevention within medical training across frontline professionals.
And you've switched your research from focusing on men to focusing on women. As a result, have you made any gender-specific findings?
Yeah, I think one thing we've definitely seen is it's different risk factors for men and women. So that's one element we need to think about. So with women, there's a lot to do with gender-based violence, trauma, and hormonal changes. But also I've seen differences in just how people react to research. There's definitely feels like there's more bias. It's much more difficult to publish your research on female studies. I'm not sure if that's because we have a lack of studies, you know, but this is something where we kind of keep trying to push the boundaries and get more research out there.
And I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Now, 2 Nepalese climbers have set Records on the same day for climbing Mount Everest the most number of times. Alongside Kami Rita Sherpa, who made his 32nd summit, Lhakpa Sherpa also broke the women's record for scaling the world's highest peak, making it her 11th trip to the summit in 26 years. Luke Schrago has the story.
A hero's welcome for Lhakpa Sherpa in Kathmandu. She'd just become the first woman to scale Mount Everest 11 times, breaking her own record in the process.
I saw so many people, women and men, almost mixing. Before a long time ago, only men, mostly men. Now it's women, mostly women, educated women follow my footsteps. Okay, I'm so happy that, and I say, I individually look like you guys, Hey, women team, you want to go Everest? No, I want to go one time, like my sister.
Home to 8 of the world's 10 highest peaks, Nepal has long held a fascination for the world's climbers, and native Nepalese Lhakpa Sherpa is no exception. One of nearly 1,000 women compared to 6,500 men who've climbed the world's highest peak, Sherpa became the world's first woman to successfully summit and descend Everest in 2000, returning to brave the extreme and often brutal conditions another 10 times over the next 26 years. Following her 10th summit in 2022, she became the subject of the award-winning Netflix documentary, Mountain Queen.
Everest is my game. That is my dream. My life's hurt me. Everest fixed my soul. Like a magic.
Beyond her own achievements, she's proud of how far Nepalese women have come.
I see Nepali Didi Baina really Western culture right now. So really educated, very independent. I'm very proud of them. Everybody are educated. And a long time ago, 2000 ma Nepal Didi Baina garmai basne, bori, kheti kisan गर्ने, कोदली खुन्ने, त्यस्तो थियो. Right now it's not that.
For most people, one climb of Mount Everest would be enough. But for Lhakpa Sherpa, returning is simply a part of who she is.
Truly impressive. And that's it for this edition. So until our next show, bye for now.